They don't call it Music City for nothing. From its musical beginnings to the way it's become a mecca for artists of all kinds, we'll see why this Tennessee metropolis has maintained its place in the industry. Though Nashville is admittedly not the birthplace of country, it is the city that helped turn it into an industry.
We're back. It's Innersleeve, episode number 42, right here on SoundMojo. I'm Cassius Morris, Frank Pavan, and Joe Pacheco. That makes the three of us right here on Innersleeve. What's happening, gents?
Nothing much. It feels good to be back, not in studio, but in the recording session with you guys. Always fun to be doing these episodes, and I'm excited about this one as well. Big week for us. Joe, how are you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for asking. This one's been in the works for a little bit, right? If in case you haven't noticed from the intro, it's all Nashville. It's a special Nashville we've been doing as part of our musical cities kind of biopics where we go and
deep dive.
The words deep dives.
Kind of,
that's it.
Yeah.
Into the neighborhoods and that shaped legendary music scenes.
So actually, tell us a bit more about this, because I think, was it around a year ago or just a bit before a year ago that we had a London series?
Yes. We had. I started with Korea, Seoul, for K-pop, and then we did London, which did really well. The power of London, basically, we called it, because there's just so much London musicians and the scenes and the influence on the world that London has had is unique, I guess, to an extent. And then Nashville for me was a natural sort of, country music being the next, not the next, but one of the main most popular genres, I guess, at this point in music, besides pop, let's say hip hop, rock, and then you have country kind of thing. So I wanted to do a deep dive on that and
And before we get into that, I just want to say a few things off the top here. Make sure, for all of you listeners on both audio and on video, check out the SoundMojo merchandise links down in the description below. Of course, I'm rocking my hoodie. The guys have their hoodies and shirts around the house as well. Very comfortable, stylish. If you like the channel, support us that way. That would be greatly appreciated. Getting into, though, the core of what this video will be, and it's kind of why I love this channel so much, Joe and Cassius, because we don't claim to be country-centric channel, a heavy rock, a classic rock-centric channel. We kind of and we kind of ran a poll with this, with the audience as well. What do you like about the channel? So it's our all-encompassing view on music. So this is kind of just another layer that I kind of want to promote here, is that this episode will be country-centric. We kind of gathered all the major clips from the country artists we've had on the show. So that's Casey James, that's Joe West, that's Brandon Lay, and there's a fourth one I'm forgetting. Can you please help me out here? Someone.
Drummer of Seether. I forgot his name.
That's
John
right.
Humphrey.
Thank you very much. John Humphrey from Seether. So those will be the 4 featured interviews, and they're all going to be kind of talking about their experience and their love for Nashville as a music town and its growth throughout the years. Also, another talking point that I want to mention here is that tomorrow a video will be dropping all about Nashville. This video was produced internally here at WatchMojo. It was researched and written by Owen Maxwell. It's voiced by the WatchMojo lady herself, Rebecca Brayton. So if I can just say one thing about this, for those listening and watching, give us a bit of support on that one. Watch it. Like Joe said, the London series did fantastic. It's us kind of showcasing all of the artists who have come and gone and left an impact on Nashville. That'll be dropping tomorrow at around 11 a.m. Is that right, Joe?
Yeah, around 11 a.m. Eastern time. And it's basically like a biopic, a deep dive into Nashville, the scenes, how it got started, how it's evolved, and what we have today.
Very comprehensive look at this, and very well done, if I may say so, about our team here. They always kick it out of the park, and really happy that we can be doing this episode also as an addition. I mean, not necessarily like a top 10 or top 5 list, so we're definitely taking something new here, and this is sort of like some hybrid content, guys. So should we just jump into it?
Yep.
Absolutely. Here's a little sneak peek at what you can expect for tomorrow's video. Enjoy.
Country boom. Whether they started there or transplanted there, many country artists flocked to Nashville to further their careers and collaborate with the talent in the city. A failed audition for the Grand Ole Opry saw Alabama's Hank Williams land work with Nashville labels. He went on to record a string of country classics and eventually brought his music to the Opry too. Williams' passion for the genre and great songs left him a legend in Southern music, and an influence to artists as a whole.
Well, there's two different approaches. Two different main things I would tell people. From an audience perspective, it's unique in that you're getting to see people that either have been or very well may soon be, national figures, and you can see these people, at every little bar and place to play around town. So that is a really unique and interestingly. There are the little hubs everywhere else. Like, you could probably do the same in LA, but LA is gigantic. Same with New York, same with Atlanta. I mean, it's a very large space. I'm sitting here in town and I can see the other side of town, literally the other side of town from where I'm at. And it's a very small, tight area. And so when you're talking about these venues and artists playing them, it's highly likely that if you come as a listener, you're going to see some cool stuff and you're going to run into some people. And so that's one thing that I would share for those that haven't been and don't know. But as a musician or an artist or a writer, a creative, or anyone that wants to work in the music industry, I was unaware as a small town kid from Texas that such a place existed. It's like every single part of the business exists here, and there's kind of a ladder that you can go by. You come into town, you play Broadway, you find yourself a band. Maybe if you're a guitar player, you play guitar for some, new artist or whatever, and you work your way in, you start writing, then you get a publishing deal, and then your publishing deal turns into a record deal. I mean, these are things that people in town, they just know, and it just is the way it is. And that's how it works. And for me, I had no idea. I mean, granted, the game has changed a lot, and that's that would be a whole different, conversation between us. But I think, when I first came to town, I was just blown away with the fact that such a place existed. I thought it was supposed to be, you play your local town, you get a following, you build it up, and there are places where that still happens. I mean, like the Southwest, the Texas market is very true to that form. Like if you bust your butt and you play enough shows and you get enough fans, you make good music, they will respect that and they will honor it. But you're generally going to be tied to the Texas charts. You know what I mean? You're going to play. Sure. You're going to play the Southwest, and in the corridor that goes north out of that also is following in, and more people join that every day. So I'm excited about that. But if you're doing it the Nashville way, you want to be national. If you could live to be 1,000, you might do that, but you can't. There's not enough time to build that many people, especially when there's so many human beings, and you have to get so many more listens and spins to really be able to fill a room. There's just more going on in life than there used to be. That's all there is to it. There's more to do. In my hand right now, I can reach. I can literally look at stars and other galaxies, and I can talk to people in Japan. I mean, when I was a kid, where you were was where you were.
Casey James with some interesting insight here on Nashville. This is a guy, from chatting with him, that you could tell really knows his business when it comes to music. And, tell me if you guys think I'm wrong. I think he spent some good amount of time thinking about the way each city and environment affects his business. What do you guys think?
Yeah, coming from his American Idol experience, he had that platform to sort of launch himself even further. But even in there, he'll tell you that you can find everybody. So you can find from legendary greats playing a bar, to the new up and comers that will eventually be nationally known, So that's what's interesting. An interesting aspect of Nashville is you can literally run into a mega star to the next star,
I think so. He spoke about that and how Nashville is like a city that can kind of spring, I don't want to say almost anyone, but the right people into the spotlight if you're doing it correctly. But he also took a very businessy approach in one of the comments he said at Cassius, and correct me if I maybe interpreted this the wrong way, but he said, and I quote, "If you're doing it the Nashville way, you want to be national. So if you're if you're going there, it's for big endeavors. It's not just to fool around.
Because you mentioned you could do the whole traditional that everybody's sort of used to, like in Texas, where you could just keep playing and playing and build yourself a local following, but you'll be sort of limited, for lack of a better word, to the Texas. Whereas if you want to go national, it's definitely Nashville. Actually in the,
no, that's a great point.
Yeah,
it makes perfect sense because like you're saying, Joe, if you're the biggest guy in Austin's probably a bad example now because they're starting to become like their own little Nashvilles. We'll probably cover that soon. But let's say somewhere else in more rural Texas, you're going to be the biggest act in that part of Texas. It's not necessarily going to bleed over into the national scene or really any scene. Whereas Nashville, you could be the biggest artist in Nashville, but like Frank is saying, the biggest artist in Nashville that day could be one of the biggest artists in the world, and they're playing maybe a smaller venue. So you know what? I mean, that's one of the biggest takeaways I had from this in general was that it really is a city for everything music. It's kind of like the SoundMojo of cities is what I'm starting to realize here.
He also says every part of the business exists there. So you got publishing to writers to engineers. And that's what's interesting.
Oh, yeah. It's and we'll get into a few more comments in regards to that, the producing side of things with an upcoming interview later on in the episode. But like, just by rewatching these over again, and I know these were interviews that we had done in the past, but like repurposed like the Nashville parts for this episode. It's like what I learned is that like Nashville is just like it's such a hub, but there's some sick competition. It's not all fun and games. It's people go there because it's their life goal to make it.
As we'll see later with Joe West later on in the show, where he mentions that he's already a platinum sort of, a gold record producer.
Nominated, Grammy nominated, or I don't know about winning.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's a nominated.
Yeah, nominated, yeah.
You'll see, as he says, he had to catch up kind of thing, So that was a good eye-opener for him.
For those who are new, maybe, and don't know, we kind of do this every week. We bring together some On This Days, some trivia games. We like to have a little bit of fun on the show here. This one, Joe, was put together by you on October 8th, 2011. So this is actually, on the day that this episode is dropping, but back in 2011, Keith Urban brings out 2 surprise guests during his show at the Staples Center, of course in Los Angeles, not Nashville or Tennessee. He's joined by John Fogerty for Proud Mary and by Jack Black for The Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Wow, that is too good.
I put that there because that reaction that you just had laughing, every time Jack Black does something, one, it's awesome, but it's always hilarious. And
guys, the guy can sing.
Yeah, the guy can't miss, and he just recently had his sort of notoriety kick back up with this TikTok thing. I don't know if you guys saw the guy on TikTok singing Tenacious D, and then Jack Black did a duet with him. So this man staying in the public scene and always staying relevant.
Yeah.
You guys ever listen to "Dude, I Totally Miss You" from Tenacious D?
Yes. Oh my god, dude, that is the ballad of all ballads, man.
It's freaking legendary. He just belts it. It's crazy.
Yeah. That album is definitely underrated.
To say if you had a Keith Urban concert and he brings out, Jack Black, you're probably in for a good time. A few more points here. These are not so much on this day, but fun facts about Nashville, the city itself. So Elvis Presley recorded more than 200 songs in the historic RCA Studio B. While recording a Christmas album in July, a bit early there, Elvis, the King had a difficult time getting into the holiday spirit. So to kind of get him into that holiday spirit, to lift the mood, the sound crew put a string of blue, green, and red colored lights that are still hanging in the recording booth today. Pretty interesting.
Wow.
Pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Piece of history right there. Nashville, now another fun fact here, Nashville hosts Tin Pan South, the largest songwriters festival in the world. The week-long springtime festival draws approximately 350 songwriters who perform their original music in various venues around the city. Isn't that so much fun? Like, wouldn't you want to just take a weekend or whenever this is around, hop around the city, bar hop, and you're just listening to kind of lower, upcoming artists,
That's it. It's what they call, I think, Music Row over there. Right?
Oh, yeah, Music Row. Okay.
Music Row, and then you have Studio Row. It's crazy because like Tin Pan, it was known as Tin Pan Alley. I think it was New York, if I'm not mistaken, where all the writers, people would just write songs for other artists to perform. So everywhere you went, while you were walking, all you heard was just piano and songwriters trying stuff for new songs and stuff. So it's interesting that they did Tin Pan South for Nashville.
And this last fun fact about Nashville, less about music, but more a testament to what we've been preaching about Nashville being a stepping stone for so many people, regardless even of the field you're in. We were talking about music, of course, but this one, Oprah Winfrey got her start in television as the first African-American female news anchor at Nashville's WLAC-TV while she was still a student at Tennessee State University. So, wow, some strong roots there in Nashville, man. Like
some good facts, Frank. I didn't know any of this stuff. Very good stuff here,
man. That's what we do.
That's what we do.
That's a fun fact for you all there. And I mean, aside from that, I think what we can now lead into here, guys, is our interview with Joe West, music producer, of course. Yep. He kind of gives us a few, it's like, when someone gives you that tough news, like that tough reality. That's what I felt like when I was listening to him talk.
A hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I liked because like he gives you I see what you mean, but he also gives you the fact that, man, no matter who you are, when you could be a top A-list producer in New York or LA, but when it comes to Nashville, like it's like the efficiency, you're going to see, as he says, the efficiency and the rate with which they work, and the quality, obviously, that's put out. Because we can work fast, but like it's just the amount of quality. Anyway.
100%. There's so much I could say to ruin it, but let's jump into it first, and then we'll get into some takeaways.
Everything but country. Outside of country, the city of Nashville has fostered the musical careers of plenty of great acts. Much of the town's music was informed by gospel acts, especially the aforementioned Fisk Jubilee Singers and groups like the Fairfield Four. These religious themes were also echoed in the Christian rock of Red, and much of the music out on local Nashboro records. One of the biggest drivers of rock music in Nashville now is Jack White of White Stripes fame, who brought his Third Man Records label to Nashville.
And I'm sweating. Oh.
Nashville's easy. Nashville's laid back. It's getting much more crowded. We moved here 15 years ago. It's a totally different city. That being said, it is the music center of the world. There's a ton of kind, generous people in the music business. Not to mean that you can come in and get what you want, right? But I would call the president of a publishing company and I'd get a call back. Whereas in New York, I'd be working on a record that was like a $500,000 budget record. I'm mixing the record and I couldn't get the A&R guy to return my phone call that I was working for on the record, right?
Insane.
So it was just like everything was a no in New York. Everything was like behind 6 doors. Nashville people they'll come out, they'll pick up the phone, they'll talk to you. Doesn't mean you're going to get what you want from them. Right. They're kind people. They work. The musicians are, I just had a conversation about how there's after 15 years, maybe only 3 guys in town that it's just too tough to work with them. Their personalities are too rough. But that's a testament to the other thousands of musicians I've worked with that are all generous, kind guys, beautiful people, talented engineers, incredible songwriters. The level of talent here, when you get here, you will be inspired or you will be kicked to the curb quickly. If competition, I won't even call it competition. If you don't see talent as inspiration and you want to be a small pond person, don't come to Nashville because you'll get your doors blown off with the talent here. But I moved to Nashville and I was so inspired by the level of efficiency, speed, quality of sounds in these studios and how fast these engineers were getting records and making records that were incredible. The session musicians, their level of talent, the songwriting, I was so inspired by it that my game went up exponentially. It became 2-3 times. And I was a guy that was making gold records and had a Grammy nomination before I moved to Nashville.
And even still, it inspired you. That's crazy.
It was, I had to catch up. When I got to Nashville, it was just the pace down here is what gets you. The level of talent and pace. In New York, you're just lamenting over a record. Sit there for months lamenting over this record. And sometimes it's unique and beautiful, something you might not get in a fast-paced record like Nashville. But you move to Nashville and it's like you just have to keep up. It's like, oh, my platoon's up there jogging and I'm way back here. Like I just had to try to keep up. I had to learn how to be good quickly. I had to get inspired and stay inspired. But it was like seeing all these people. It was just, for me, it was a light. I was chasing them. And then once I got up with them, it was like, you're in the ether with them. You're able to do some things that are beyond your ability because of just the way the creative process happens. Nashville's great for that. New York was great too, but it was, New York is in LA have kind of squeezed the music business out of the sponge.
Yeah,
right?
It's different now. It seems different from where I'm sitting, at least.
Where are you based at?
Alberta, Canada.
Okay.
So, I'm sitting far, but
New York and LA, it's such an expensive city. Both of those cities are very expensive. And there's no sense. I don't remember a big sense of community. I had my own little community in New York, but Nashville has a giant community. Like people will say, oh, I know Joe West. And I've never met him because they just know of me because I've been in this giant pool of creatives, people down here. And they're like, oh, yeah, I know that guy. He's great. I love him. And I'll say the same thing. And not because I've met them. I'm not lying either. It's like, I know their work.
Right.
I've heard what they've done. And I'm like, I'm a fan of what they do. Or, oh, they made this record. Or that's this guy that played this guitar part. Or, so it's an interesting thing. It's very big in Nashville. And it's changing. People, they say 100 people are moving. 100 people a day move to Nashville for the music business. Maybe not just for the music business, but 100 people a day. And it's getting
big numbers still.
What is that? 100 times 365, 36,500. Is my math right? It's not 300,000. It'd be 36,500.
Just about. And imagine the competition there. I mean, the amount of people that are actually super gifted.
Yeah, and the music business is always changing. It's different than when I moved here. And, you look at these guys like, oh, Kenny Rogers ended up kicking Merle Haggard out of the number one position. And then it was Kenny Rogers' era. And then Kenny Rogers got kicked out by Travis Tritt. And then Travis Tritt got kicked out by Rascal Flatts.
And
Rascal Flatts got kicked out by Sam Hunt. And it's like, let's not complain about any of this. It's outside of our control. Just get into a community, make great records, accept the community and the reality of it for what it is, and just try to make great records, try to make great recordings, write great songs. Do that, in the stuff that's outside of your hands, don't worry about it. Just deal with it, accept it.
I love that.
Nashville's a great town for that.
Joe West, to me, probably one of the favorite behind-the-scenes guys I've ever got to interview. And I'll tell you why. Joe West is what I would call a producer's producer. Like, he's really one of the producers that a heavyweight in music would either know or relate to. Just a guy who thinks about levels and engineering techniques all day and night. This is his life's blood. And it was interesting that you were saying, Frank, he didn't sugarcoat any of the things that he said here. And one of the things I really liked that he said was that you can get anybody on the phone or to kind of meet with you if you're in Nashville, but that doesn't mean you're going to get what you want from that person. And I think that's an interesting sort of look at how the mindset of these Nashville creatives goes.
Well, it's cool because, like he said, you can get the president of a publishing company, but that doesn't even work with you. Like, just like you call him, he'll call you back. Whereas the A&R guy that hired you to do an album, like you said, a $500,000 album, isn't returning your calls.
In New York, right?
In New York.
Exactly.
Yeah, he kind of course, for those who watched the interview, like, he compared a lot of what he experienced in Nashville to what he's experienced in New York. And, he said you can get a legitimate high-ranking producer to call you back and help you out on something in Nashville, whereas if you put in a request like that in New York, you're probably going to be left on hold or on red. In Nashville. So there's the kindness, the generosity of people in Nashville is probably, according to him, much more present. But at the same time, even though you'll get that help, it's on you to use it, to put it on display.
Yeah, it's like a great sense of community is what he said, like about like the people there are willing to help. And like, again, as I mentioned before, the efficiency, and all that stuff, it's laid back, right? He says he's been there for 15 years right now, I think, so it's like, but it's getting much more crowded. Like, I found interesting that 100 people a day were moving to Nashville for music. So that
35,000 people a year. That's big competition. You got to stay on top of your game.
My God.
It's insane.
Wow.
I mean, it's really crazy to think about.
And to go off of one last thing, at least on my end here, that he said that stuck out, and it's kind of taken from the same cloth of Casey James, when he said, if you're doing it the Nashville way, you want to be national. Joe West said, you don't want to be a small pond artist in Nashville because the talent will blow you away.
Which is kind of what you were saying, Cassius, earlier on about like you could be big in Texas, right? But you're like a big fish in a small pond, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and it feels like there is definitely the potential to do that in Nashville, but also, like we heard from Casey, the potential to blow up even if you're trying to be smaller. And great points by you guys here. And I also love the fact that, when you talk about the kindness and community, Joe makes a really great point. Calling you back is kindness. People seem to think that getting a yes is the only kindness. They don't realize that even getting the meeting or getting the call, that's a lot in other places. So I think really, really valuable insight by Joe West for sure. He knows what he's doing.
And we're back. I like doing that. Like take a page from Cassius. And now we're back with music trivia. Ooh, my favorite part when I don't have to be in your guys' seat. Okay, obviously it's going to be a little bit more country Nashville-centric, but like myself not knowing too much about Nashville because I learned a lot with this video. So this is like also, I think a little bit easier.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay, I hope so because I'm going to need it.
I think I kept them all to multiple choice, so it makes it easier. So, all right, number 1. Which city is considered country music capital of the world? Louisville, Denver, Memphis, or Nashville?
Is this like a trick question, Joe?
I was going to say, is it not Nashville?
Okay.
I want to give you guys a freebie. So yeah, Nashville obviously is the
answer there.
Country music capital of the world. All right, number 2. Not a multiple choice. This is not a multiple choice. Country song Jolene was released in 1974 by which artist?
Oh my God.
You don't know it, Frank?
I'll know it once you say it. At least that's. I want to say
Google it and then I'll know it.
Yeah. Let me just take this thing. It's not Dolly Parton.
Oh. Look at you! It is. It is.
There you go. All right.
This is what
Let's
I'm
go
talking
2 for
about.
2.
You see, this is the team that we really needed from the beginning.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah,
okay, Joe.
All right.
We're taking you to town on these ones.
Awesome. I love it.
And now I get to pretend like I knew the answer too, because Frank answered. Oh, sorry. No.
Yeah. Willie Nelson wrote "On the Road Again" on A, his forearm, a hamburger wrapper, a toilet paper, or a barf bag.
Thought we were gonna say on the
road. Yeah.
Again.
Yeah, no. So Willie Nelson wrote "On the Road Again" on his forearm, a hamburger wrapper, toilet paper, or barf bag.
Okay, so let's just process of elimination here, right, Cassius? Let's break this down. Realistically, you've got to be in a pretty bad state of mind to write anything on a piece of toilet paper because that's the flimsiest shit out there. So I gotta eliminate that.
Okay.
If you're talking about like a hit song. A burger wrapper just seems like there's too much on it. Like the words can get caught into like whatever wording or wrapping that's on it.
This
So
is
I'm
true,
gonna
unless it's
eliminate
one of those aluminum ones with the white insides. But
Right.
the McDonald's ones
right.
is
You
going
guys
to be
are
a little
going
too
on.
far.
Yeah, but this, like, think about it. This is when he wrote "On the Road Again." It was like, this is what, 70s, But like,
anyways, I'm just basing on
Yeah.
So toilet paper out,
So you
hamburger
have-
wrapper out,
yeah. So you have his forearm,
barf bag or forearm.
Yeah.
I think the barf bag goes well with the burger because you probably need it after eating the burger. So I think we might be having a hint here. I'm gonna say the barf bag.
I'm gonna say forearm.
Boom. Cash has got it. The barf.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Right. I mean, just
During
barfing and Willie Nelson, it just works. That's
it, yeah. During a flight to Hollywood, the producers of the movie Honeysuckle Rose approached Willie about writing a song for the movie, which obviously, About 45 minutes later, he had the finished lyrics on one of the airline's barf bags. So you see what I mean? Like many songs have been written where they just grab something. We just need to write down the idea so you don't miss it,
Wow.
All right.
Insane.
So who recorded 2 of his best-selling albums in prison? So we have Johnny Cash, John Denver, Willie Nelson again, or Hank Williams Jr. 2 of his best-selling albums in jail. Or in prison, sorry.
I know Johnny Cash did a lot of stuff in jail.
I would go with Johnny here.
I'm going to say Hank.
Final answer?
Now I don't want it to be, yes.
Yeah, Johnny Cash, man. You can
Okay.
never go wrong
Okay.
with Folsom
Okay.
Prison Blues and all that stuff, right? I don't know if you watched the movie too, Walk the Line, where it's like you see it happen in there.
That was a good movie. Reese Witherspoon, correct?
Yeah, very good movie.
Yeah, that was good. Okay, Cassius, so we're 4 for 4. We're still kicking here. We're still alive.
We're kicking, man.
All right.
Which Loretta Lynn song inspired 1980 biographical film of the same name? So now you got to picture the title of the name, right? Of the movie. So Honky Tonk Heroes, Fist City, Entertainer of the Year, or Coal Miner's Daughter.
There's something about that coal miner's daughter that's talking to me. It's talking to me, man.
It's speaking your name.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say. What was the last one?
Coal miner's daughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was that second to last?
Entertainer of the Year.
I'm gonna go with Coal Miner's Daughter.
Frank,
Yep.
you guys are nailing it out of the park. Coal Miner's Daughter.
Right.
That's it.
Entertainer of the Year just sounds like a Quentin Tarantino movie with Brad Pitt or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely not a farm Loretta Lynn influence there.
Yeah.
Good. So I was right. This was a nice, slightly easier one. So
This is
awesome. Good job,
Man,
guys.
you should
Best
get the
one we've
questions from here more often. I might win more.
Yeah.
There you go.
So now we have a little bit more insight on the Nashville scene. I think this has been really cool and lots of good information. And now we're going to stop over and have a chat with Brandon Lay. This man has been in the trenches, performing in bars, clubs, anywhere you can picture for years and years now, and he has a wealth of information. So let's check it out.
Kings of Leon made their start in Nashville before exploding onto the global scene.
We will come to your town, burn your house down, turn the sky brown.
Other local rockers have included Jeff the Brotherhood, Be Your Own Pet, Dave Cloud, Judah and the Lion, R. Stevie Moore, and the grungy tones of Bully. Heck, the Black Keys have relocated to Nashville too. Less traditional Nashville acts like Paramore, Kesha, and Young Buck have nevertheless sprung from Music City too.
The good news is there's never been more outlets than ever, A record deal, honestly, has probably never meant less than it does right now. And I mean that with all respect to my label, because I'm thankful for a deal. But you have so many other outlets. It's not just radio, Walmart anymore.
Exactly.
So I think it's good overall. It's great for up and coming young artists because they have a chance to be heard just as much as some of the big guys. Terrestrial radio still dominates, kind of where you are in the hierarchy, but you can garner momentum through these other outlets and then go to radio. And I think that's the good thing. So
that's a good point. In terms of Nashville's individuality, what do you think sets the Nashville music market apart from other music markets in America, especially?
I'm probably biased. I think the best musicians in the world live here. There's tons of studios, but it's like if you work hard and you're pretty good at what you do, you'll get heard. Whereas LA or New York, it's so big, you can be good and not get heard, I feel like. And Nashville's kind of small enough where it's not like it's a good old boy system, but you get to know the same faces and like in a good way, So I think the Nashville scene is it really has the opportunity to be cliquey, but I don't think it is at all. I think that Nashville embraces new people and new artists like really well. So I think that's one of the strong points that draws people to Nashville is it is inviting, and there are so many producers and players. You can have a blue collar music job in Nashville, and I'm sure you can other places too, but I feel like there are more opportunities for normal guys if they're engineers, they're studio hands, whatever. Like there's a lot of opportunity in the music field to make a living, whereas maybe other places it's more all or nothing. I don't know, but I know, and I think probably just the welcoming aspect is what maybe sets Nashville apart.
So it's sort of almost set up more so for this music scene and to be accessible to more people is what it sounds like.
I think so. There are just so many studios that are capable of putting out a record, and it's not, you can throw a rock and find a good guitar player,
right.
It's special. And it a lot of people move down here with a dream. And I think Nashville is got enough clout or high enough on the profile and as far as world music where your dreams can come true in Nashville. So it's, it could be a gateway to what you're dreaming. So I know the other ones can too, but I think when you mix that with the smaller, more welcoming aspect, it makes it special.
That makes a lot of sense, definitely. And we're doing a special on Nashville coming up, so this is definitely going to give people some clarity on that for sure. How about the polarization of country music? The country seems to be a genre that people either really are into or they really seem opposed to. Is this something that you've noticed?
I have, yeah. I think there's probably a space for, or I think there's some validity to some of the people complaining it's not country enough. I think there's some validity to that. And then I think there's some validity to people saying it's, too pop or too generic or whatever. But the fact of the matter is it's never been more widespread and commercial than it is now.
True.
And I think that's because, I grew up, I listed the bands I grew up on, but, a lot of Matchbox 20 and, Blink-182, like it was TRL and watching Alanis Morissette. And like, I think a lot of kids that are on the radio now, listen to the same stuff growing up. And, I don't know if I'm not here to say if it's good or bad for the genre to be more commercial and maybe less rootsy, but I think every artist has the opportunity to be who they are. And that's what I'm trying to do, is just stay in my lane and be the best me and, try to connect with people. But there are a lot of different flavors going on right now.
Is that hard for you? Like, do you sometimes hear stuff and sort of subconsciously get drawn towards it when you're writing music and say, wait, I have to veer back to the original path here?
Yeah. And I got to admit, I don't listen to country radio much, and that's probably a terrible thing to admit. I it's not because I'm like a hater. It's just because that right there, I don't want to be a sheep, and to a fault, I try to write my own book, so to speak. So I listen to a lot of Fleetwood Mac and Tom Petty, but I listen to Don Williams in Alabama. So I love going back to the old stuff and finding deep cuts that I never knew existed. That stuff helps me write, I think, more true. I think that's the main goal. It's just to be honest. And absolutely. If you listen too much to what's going on, you can get drawn into the same old melodies, like,
exactly, right?
This right here has been in a million, you can definitely get drawn into that.
Shout out to Brandon Lay for that insight. I really liked chatting with him about this because I don't know about you guys, it seemed to me like more of an inside view. Like it seemed like a lot of people talking about Nashville in general, not necessarily in this episode, but if they like it, they'll just tell you, oh, it's great. It's a great place to be. Brandon gave you pros and cons, and he sort of gave you the middle too. He really broke it all down.
Yeah, he kind of, he didn't sugarcoat the way he felt. I feel like in the first question, at least, that you asked him like a strong question about if the city and the competition is daunting and if he gets concerned at all ever. And he was just like, yep. I plain and simple. I am always on the lookout for other competition, and I'm not to say that he's scared by any means, but it's something that you have to always be thinking of. It's
reality, man. There's just so much competition out there. Even Casey James said it before, like it's not the same game anymore. Now you could everybody's just competing for attention, right? And what I like about him is that you could still get it to other outlets, even though I guess country music at the time was always like radio, obviously. And then Walmart was a big thing for them, and but now there's so many more outlets. So there are more opportunities, but there's a ton of, obviously with Joe West telling us 35,000 people a year, your competition is exponential every year. You know what I mean? It's scary, to be honest.
It doesn't stop. And I think he did make mention of the terrestrial radio being still the number one.
I liked about the fact that he, about the blue collar stuff. That was fun. Like the fact that you don't necessarily have to go there to be an artist or a musician, but like someone like me or like Joe West is like, you could just go there and be an engineer, be a producer, like studio hand, right? Like, and then like, there's every aspect of the business there. So I could go into publishing, songwriting, a lot of songwriting camps. That's what I hear a lot over the years is like, publishing companies will put together like 20 artists, 20 writers with an artist. And it's like, you have a camp every day. There's camps. So there's a lot of songwriting going on in Nashville too.
Oh, I mean, it's insane. It's like a hub for production, and I've heard it said somewhere. I wish I could give credit, but they were saying that like a real musician understands, or somebody who really studies this understands that like the people behind the scenes usually come first. The producers, if you're using writers, like this is the main element of a song, and the face and the main vocal of the song is often the last piece that really needs to come to make it work. So I sort of feel like cities like LA and New York, all the emphasis is on the star, the person who's the lead vocalist, and really what that's all about. In Nashville, I feel like there's a more well-rounded appreciation for all the moving pieces of the business. It really is important. I mean, Joe, you can tell us, like, it really is important to have that.
I didn't think of it that way, but it's true, because it's like again, it just reinforces the community aspect, right? Where you're not really alone, or they're not gonna, I mean, it's still a business. We all get it. But I mean, the fact that, like you said, more well-rounded, more like the community, instead of just like the top engineer, the top guitar player in this band, or the top artist right now at the moment, the hottest thing, And
it's not as much about being a star. It's just about working in music more so. Yeah. But sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah, sorry, I was going to move on. And I was going to say, what did you guys think about I love that question. You asked about the polarization of country music. Because I too, I'm not a country aficionado by any means, but like when I listen to, let's say, like Taylor Swift, who was considered country when she started out, but it's a lot of it is pop. Sounds very pop to me. Very, pop music, So it's like he said that like kind of thing where it's like he likes the older stuff, which is more rootsy country, and then you have the newer stuff, So.
Well, I mean, like, look, I'm not going to claim to be a country connoisseur here, but with the music that the modern music, there's been a shift, is what I'm trying to say. There's been a bit of a shift towards like the fusion of country music with other genres, and I think a big player in that was legitimately Lil Nas X and what the hell? Oh my God,
Old Town Road.
Yeah, but
Cyrus.
Cyrus. Billy Ray. And so they were obviously massive players and influencers on that scene. And, but I still have an appreciation for like the Stapleton, Tennessee whiskey type of music. Like that's just good old country for you. But
grabbing
I feel
some
like
milk and my baby's gone and the whole deal,
Yeah, there's been a shift though, definitely.
I've always enjoyed like the musicianship of these guys. Like the session player, the country guitar is freaking hard, man. It ain't easy to play, And these musicians, like I've had experience in studio myself working with a friend of mine where he hired, let's say, a drummer from Nashville to do tracks. I got the tracks back the next day or the same day, and like nothing for me to do. I didn't have to edit them. I didn't have to fix anything up. It was just like, wow, just pick your favorite kind of thing. Same thing. A slide player sends his tracks. It's perfect, ready to go. It's like you just choose what you want to keep in the song or not. That's what. I understand what Joe West means. These guys do it all day long. You just got to show up, boom, do your thing. It's interesting. It's really refreshing. When you're used to working where stuff takes long, you can go over something for like months on one song, where it's here, it's like pop, 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 and it's all quality,
Yeah. It's so cool. And I mean, it's a great point you guys are making about the evolution of the music also. I know we have to cut it off here, but I mean, it makes me think of hip hop too. You look at hip hop the last few years, I mean, you compare the stuff that's popular now to a Tribe Called Quest or the guys that started it. It's a completely different type of music, but it's under the same name. So really fascinating to watch how these things change, and hopefully we can continue to do these, guys. I think this was a lot of fun, and we gotta stay on top of these musical cities.
A lively legacy. Today, Nashville continues to be a powerhouse in the industry, a fact reflected in its many music events, labels, and venues. For festivals, there's the CMA Music Fest, as well as more genre-ambiguous offerings like Rites of Spring and Live on the Green. When it comes to venues, music lovers are spoiled for choice, with recognizable names including Robert's Honky Tonk, Basement East, Cannery Ballroom, BB King's, Bluebird, and Party Foul. With a lasting legacy and a scene that remains energetic and varied, Nashville really is Music City.
And I love that town. It's growing so fast. So many people moving there all the time, But it's a cool town. Studios are great. Blackbird's an amazing studio. We've recorded 2 or 3 times there now. So it's almost like a second home. It's sort of our headquarters. And anytime we get together to start rehearsing and working, we work out of there. And people are friendly, and it's a beautiful town. I mean, I'm still in Oklahoma. If I were to move anywhere, I'd tell them all the time it would be Nashville if I were to go anywhere. But yeah, I like Nashville a lot.
Big shout out to John Humphrey and all of the guests that we had on this week's episode of Innersleeve Tackling Nashville. I don't want you guys to forget to go check out the video that accompanies this, which is going to be out on SoundMojo. All about Nashville. It's voiced by the Watch Mojo lady herself, and it has some great info that we may not have covered here. Do we have anything else, guys, or is that really it for this episode?
Just mention, I'll put the links to all this stuff and the link to the actual video, which will most likely be premiering on the next day. It'll all be in the description below.
No, that's it, man. I'm proud and happy that this stuff is being showcased on SoundMojo. This is what the channel is all about. This is what we bring on a weekly basis. And
let us know other cities you guys are interested in hearing about, or music scenes, or even genres. Like you like techno, from a specific place. Why not, right? We can do some interesting deep dives.
Absolutely. We have 100%. That flexibility to do so. We just want you guys to continue supporting the channel and rock on. That's it.
Awesome.
That's it, guys. Make sure to let us know which cities or scenes you want us to cover, again, in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe on our audio platform. Shout out to all our audio listeners all around the world. And right here on our video platform, SoundMojo. And when you subscribe, make sure to click that little notification bell next to the subscribe button so you can be up to date in real time about everything we're doing. We have polls, we have community tabs, we have interviews, we have music videos, content almost every single day. So we know we're bound to keep it fresh, and we're going to keep delivering what you guys want to see and hear. So thanks so much for tuning in from all of us, and we'll catch you next week right here on Innersleeve.